We're now joined by former ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor John Bolton. Ambassador, thanks so much for coming on. What should happen now? What should happen next?
Well, I think this depends on what the government of Israel wants to do. I must say I have flashbacks to the summer of 2006. The Israeli rhetoric is pretty intense. Defense Minister Ehud Barak saying this is going to be a fight to the death with Hamas, much as government leaders in 2006 said they were going to eliminate Hezbollah. It's a risky proposition for Israel not to carry through on that, because Hezbollah, in the view of many, emerged as the victor in that war simply by surviving, and Hamas might well do the same thing here.
We have 6,500 reservists called up. We have 180 Hamas security forces dead, 51 civilians, 330 in 3 days, including 7 children under 15. Is Israel overreacting?
No, I don't think so. I think Israel has a perfectly legitimate right of self-defense. Hamas has been firing rockets from the Gaza Strip for years, even during a so-called ceasefire that lasted 6 months until Hamas itself said they weren't going to carry it on. And when you have a right of self-defense, it's not simply a tit-for-tat right of self-defense. It's a right to eliminate the threat. If that's what Israel is in fact choosing to do, I think they're perfectly legitimate in so doing.
When they say they were going to fight till the end, as you quoted Ehud Barak as saying, and when he says, you know, this is just the beginning, it's going to get a lot worse, and they vow to, what, eliminate Hamas, is that a realistic goal?
Well, I think it's going to be a very difficult goal, but having set that as the bar, Israel is going to be judged by whether they achieve it or not. That's why you have to fit the rhetoric to the action. It would have been one thing for Israel to say this is going to be a retaliatory raid and it's going to be limited and defined, and then do that. That's one thing. But when you say you're going to eliminate Hamas, either you're prepared to do it, or if you're not, you have to accept the consequences of that too.
If you overreact, and you say you don't think Israel is, but if it's a disproportionate reaction, Turkey's prime minister says it's a crime against humanity. Sarkozy of France condemned the provocations, but he also said Israel is using a disproportionate use of force. Can you create a bigger problem if the response is disproportionate?
Well, I think this is the customary rhetoric that occurs every time Israel acts in self-defense. Look, the fact is that it's not disproportionate use of force to eliminate the threat itself. You're not required only to fire as many rockets into Gaza as Hamas fired into Israel. That's what Israel says it's trying to do. But as I say, the real judgment will be whether they're effective or not, or whether they are seen as reaching farther than they're able to go.
What should be the role of the United States? President Bush is on vacation, staying in Crawford. He's had his spokespeople out front. He has not personally said anything. Should he be more involved? The impression is he's just leaving it all now for the next administration. Should he be more proactive at this point?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I think the administration made a mistake over the weekend at the United Nations in agreeing to a statement by the Security Council president that called for a ceasefire. That can only mean stopping the Israeli military action. That's really what's at issue here. So I think the administration has already given away a lot of important ground.
The president, in Annapolis last year, about 13 months ago, vowed that he would be fully involved, proactive, fully involved in a peace process. This seems not to be the case, especially now that he is kind of laying back and seems not engaged here.
Well, personally, I thought the launching of the Annapolis process was a mistake when it was started. There was no chance there was going to be real negotiation between Palestinians and Israelis. The Palestinians don't have anybody that can really speak for them. The Palestinian Authority is broken probably into two irreconcilable pieces. So I think the Annapolis process was a mistake from the outset.
Hey, Ambassador, it's Rich Lowry. Thanks so much for being with us. Let's go back to this idea of a disproportionate Israeli response, because it's a key part of the world reaction to this. Can you elaborate on this a little bit? Because I think there are a couple key points. One, there is zero moral equivalency between Israel and Hamas. Hamas is a terror group with a maximalist goal of exterminating Israel. And as you pointed out in one of your responses to Alan, a strictly proportionate response would mean Israel randomly firing rockets into Israel. That would be absurd and into Gaza. That would be absurd and immoral in itself.
Yeah, well, this whole idea of proportionate force is just something dreamed up in UN and academic circles. Let me give you another example. Was the United States limited after the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor to a proportionate response? We sink as many aircraft carriers and battleships as they sank, and we have to stop our use of force. At that point, of course not. We were entitled, as a legitimate exercise of the right of self-defense, to eliminate the threat, and that's what we did.
And, Ambassador, why is it that Israel seems to be the only country in the world that evokes this kind of condemnation when it simply defends itself?
Well, I think it's not only Israel, and this to me is one of the really important parts of this debate about the right of self-defense and this argument about the proportionate use of force, because while the focus is certainly on Israel, Israel in a sense is a surrogate for the United States. God forbid another attack comes against us and we have a president who decides to respond to it, we will be criticized for the disproportionate use of force. We weren't criticized for overthrowing the Taliban, although that was certainly a much larger operation than even the September attacks. But we were criticized for overthrowing Saddam Hussein. The notion of proportionate force is something that can easily be turned against the United States. So the way this debate turns out over Israel has implications that go well beyond this current clash in Gaza.
Oh, that's an excellent point. And Barack Obama, when over the summer he visited southern Israel, and his reaction to these rocket attacks was to say, if people were rocketing my house, I would do absolutely everything I could to stop them, and I wouldn't blame Israel for doing the same. That seems a pretty good gut reaction, don't you think?
Well, that was one gut reaction. He's had other gut reactions during the campaign. I mean, I think we don't really have a clue what an Obama presidency is going to do, and that could be a factor in the Israeli calculation of when and whether to launch these operations in Gaza right now before he takes office.
All right, Mr. Ambassador, stay right there. Coming up next, more with John Bolton after the break. Then, what does this Israel-Hamas showdown mean for Barack Obama? Is the president-elect prepared for a possible war?